Okay, so you're getting ready for that IELTS speaking test, right?
Yeah.
And I bet you're looking for every advantage you can get.
Uh,
Well, you've come to the right place because we are diving deep into pronunciation.
right.
Not just for a perfect accent, though,
Right.
but for clarity and confidence.
Mm.
You know that effortless flow that makes you sound like a natural?
Yeah, for sure.
Because, let's be honest, when you're comfortable with pronunciation,
Mm-hmm.
your personality and ideas can really shine through.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
we've got a fantastic source today,
Okay.
packed with tips and tricks that are going to level up your speaking game.
Awesome.
What's interesting is a lot of people think pronunciation is just about accent reduction,
Yeah, definitely.
but it goes way beyond that.
It does.
It's about mastering the music of the language,
Okay.
the rhythm, the stress, the intonation,
Mm-hmm.
so your speech becomes engaging and effortless.
Yeah, I like the music of the language.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's unpack this musical toolbox.
Yeah.
First up, sentence stress.
Okay.
It's kind of like highlighting the key words in a sentence.
Exactly. We naturally emphasize certain words to convey meaning.
Right.
Think of it like the difference between reading a shopping list out loud
Okay.
and telling a story.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't say, I need milk, eggs, and bread.
Right.
With the same flat intonation as like, I went to the store and they were out of bread.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Right.
So we're talking about emphasizing content words,
Mm-hmm.
the nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs,
Mm-hmm.
the meat of the sentence.
Precisely.
And while function, words like articles and prepositions,
Right.
they're important grammatically,
Yes.
they don't carry the same weight in terms of meaning.
Yeah,
Reducing them slightly helps create that natural flow.
it does.
I see. So it's not about stressing every word equally.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating a rhythm.
That's it.
What are some ways that people can practice getting this right?
One simple exercise is to choose a sentence from a book or an article and mark the words you think should be stressed.
Gotcha.
Then listen to a native speaker read the same sentence and compare. You'll start to notice those subtle patterns.
That's a great tip.
Yeah,
It's amazing how much we can learn just by listening closely.
you really can.
Okay, so we've got sentence stress down.
Okay.
What about intonation?
All right.
That's the rise and fall of our voice, right?
Yes, intonation adds another layer of meaning to our speech.
Okay.
It helps us convey emotions,
Uh-huh.
signal questions,
Okay.
and even subtly influence how our message is received.
I see.
Think about the difference between saying it's raining
Okay.
with a flat tone
Yeah.
versus with a rising intonation at the end, almost as if you're seeking confirmation.
Right.
It changes the entire feel of the sentence.
That's so true. It's
Yeah.
like punctuation for spoken language.
I like that.
So how can we make sure our intonation is on point for the IELTS?
One effective technique is called shadowing. It's basically mimicking a native speaker in real time.
Gotcha.
Choose a short audio clip,
Right.
listen carefully,
Yeah.
and then try to repeat it immediately, matching their intonation, their rhythm, even their pauses.
Wow.
It might feel awkward at first, but it's like a workout for your voice.
Interesting. I've heard of shadowing, but I always thought it was for advanced learners.
Oh, no.
Is it really something that could benefit anyone?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can adjust the difficulty by choosing material that's appropriate for your level.
Right.
Start with something simple.
Yeah.
And gradually work your way up to more complex content.
Makes sense.
The key is to focus on the nuances,
Mm-hmm.
those subtle shifts in pitch and tone
Right.
that convey meaning beyond the words themselves.
Wow. That's a whole new way to look at it.
Yeah,
It's not just about repeating words. It's about capturing the essence of how those words are spoken.
exactly.
Okay, let's move on to a pronunciation secret that I bet will surprise our listeners.
Okay.
It turns out
What's that?
that native English speakers kind of cheat
Oh.
with something called connected speech.
Well, it's not really cheating,
Okay.
but it's definitely a shortcut
Right.
that makes spoken English smoother and more efficient.
I see.
Essentially, we connect words together,
Mhm.
blending sounds,
Wait,
dropping sounds,
Mhm.
and even adding sounds where they don't technically belong.
adding sounds where they don't belong.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. Can you give us an example?
Sure, take the phrase, I saw it.
Okay.
Often native speakers will pronounce it as I saw writ,
I saw Ritz.
with a little R sound creeping in between the words.
Oh.
Or go on becomes go on with a W sound linking the two words.
Fascinating. I've always wondered why native speakers sound so different from what I was reading in textbooks.
Right.
It all starts to make sense now.
Exactly. These connected speech patterns are so ingrained
Yeah?
that we often don't even realize we're doing them.
Wow.
But for learners, understanding these patterns
Hmm.
can be a game changer.
So how can we incorporate connected speech into our own pronunciation practice?
It's all about exposure and awareness.
Okay.
Start by listening for these connections in authentic speech.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasts, movies, TV shows.
Right.
You can even find videos online that specifically break down connected speech patterns.
I see.
Once you start to hear them, you can start to imitate them.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like a pronunciation detective.
All right.
I'm ready to uncover all those hidden connections.
Good.
Now, let's talk about a sound that I bet a lot of listeners have struggled with.
Okay.
The schwa.
The schwa.
It's that little sound that seems to pop up everywhere.
The schwa, represented by the symbol,
Okay.
is the laziest vowel in English.
The laziest vowel.
It's the sound we make when a vowel is unstressed in a word.
Okay.
Think about the word banana.
Banana.
The first and last sounds are schwas.
Oh, okay.
Or the word about the O is actually a schwa.
Interesting. I'm starting to see schwas everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Why is this sound so important for English learners?
Mastering the schwa is crucial for achieving a natural rhythm and flow in English.
Okay.
It helps us reduce those unstressed syllables
Right.
and connect words smoothly.
Gotcha.
It's also incredibly common, appearing in nearly every multisyllabic word.
Wow. So if we want to sound more natural, we need to embrace the laziness of the schwa.
I love that.
Any tips for getting comfortable with this sound?
One fun exercise is to choose a paragraph from a book or an article
Right.
and try to identify all the schwa sounds.
Okay.
You can even underline them or mark them with a special symbol.
Gotcha.
Then practice reading the paragraph aloud, paying close attention to how you pronounce those schwa sounds.
That's a great idea. It turns learning pronunciation into a bit of a game.
It does.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
Sentence stress, intonation, connected speech, and the ever-present schwa.
Yeah.
But we've got even more pronunciation power-ups to explore.
All right.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll dive into some more advanced techniques.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back. We've been unpacking some essential pronunciation tools, and I'm already feeling more confident about tackling those IELTS speaking tasks. But before we move on, I have a question that I'm sure many listeners are wondering. How do we know if our pronunciation is actually good enough for the test?
That's a great question. And the good news is that the IELTS examiners aren't looking for a perfect native-like accent.
Okay.
What they are assessing is your ability to communicate clearly and effectively.
So it's more about being understandable than sounding like a BBC News reader.
Precisely. While a clear and natural accent can certainly boost your confidence and make a good impression,
Right.
it's not the be-all and end-all. What matters most is that your pronunciation doesn't hinder comprehension.
That's a relief to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we make sure our pronunciation is clear and doesn't create any obstacles for the listener?
Self-awareness is key. Try recording yourself speaking,
Okay.
and then listen back critically. Do you notice any recurring errors?
Hmm.
Are there any sounds or words that you consistently struggle with?
Yeah.
This can help you pinpoint areas to focus on.
I like that idea of being our own pronunciation critics.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to be objective about our own speech.
Hmm.
What are some other ways we can get feedback and identify those tricky areas?
One valuable resource is a trained English teacher or language partner
Right.
who's a native speaker.
Okay.
They can provide personalized feedback and help you correct specific pronunciation habits.
That makes sense. But what if you don't have access to a teacher or a language partner right now?
Technology can be a fantastic tool.
Okay.
There are tons of pronunciation apps and online resources that offer interactive exercises, recordings of native speakers, and even voice analysis tools.
Wow.
Some of them can even pinpoint the specific sounds you need to work on.
That's amazing. So no
Yeah.
excuses, right? We all have the tools we need to improve. Okay, so we've talked about identifying those tricky sounds. But what about the bigger picture? What are some common pronunciation mistakes that IELTS candidates should be aware of?
One common area of difficulty is vowel length.
Vowel length?
In English, vowels can be short or long,
Right.
and this distinction can change the meaning of a word.
Okay.
Think about ship versus sheep, or live versus leave.
Ah, yes, those minimal pairs. We talked about those earlier.
Exactly.
It's amazing how one tiny difference in sound can completely change the meaning.
Exactly. And it's not just vowel length word. Stress can also trip up many learners.
Okay.
In English, the stress can fall on different syllables within a word, and this can alter both pronunciation and meaning.
Can you give us an example of how word stress can change meaning?
Absolutely, take the word present.
Present, okay.
If we stress the first syllable, it's a noun meaning a gift.
Right.
But if we stress the second syllable, it becomes a verb meaning to give something.
Wow, that one little stress shift makes a big difference.
It does.
It's like a pronunciation puzzle.
It is, and that's why it's so important to pay attention to word stress when you're learning new vocabulary. Use online dictionaries or pronunciation apps to listen to the correct pronunciation and notice where the stress falls.
Okay, so we've got vowel length and word stress. Anything else we should be on the lookout for?
Consonant clusters can be another challenge, especially at the beginning or end of words.
Consonant clusters.
English has a lot of these consonant combinations like spur and spring or lengths and strengths.
Right.
And they can be quite a mouthful for non-native speakers.
Those consonant clusters can definitely feel like a tongue twister.
They can.
Any tips for mastering them?
The key is to break them down into smaller chunks
Okay.
and practice slowly and deliberately.
Gotcha.
Exaggerate the sounds at first,
Uh-huh.
and then gradually increase the speed as you become more comfortable.
It's like a workout for our tongue muscles.
Exactly. And speaking of workouts, remember that pronunciation is a skill that develops over time with consistent practice. The more you expose yourself to spoken English, the more natural and effortless your pronunciation will become.
So keep listening to podcasts, watching movies, and engaging in conversations with native speakers.
Absolutely. Make English a part of your daily life, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you progress. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, test day nerves.
Oh, yeah.
It's natural to feel a bit anxious when you're facing a high-stakes exam like the IELTS.
Definitely.
But those nerves can sometimes wreak havoc on our pronunciation.
I know exactly what you mean. My heart starts racing and my tongue feels like it's tied to knots. Any advice for calming those pre-test jitters?
Preparation is your best defense against nerves, the more familiar you are with the format of the test and the types of questions you might be asked.
Okay.
The more confident you'll feel.
Right.
Practice speaking English in various settings with friends in front of a mirror, even recording yourself, answering IELTS-style questions.
Those are great practical tips. Is there anything we can do on the day of the test to manage those last-minute nerves?
Visualize success.
Okay.
Before you walk into the testing room, take a few deep breaths and imagine yourself confidently answering the examiner's questions with clear and natural pronunciation. Believe in yourself. And remember that the examiners are there to support you and help you showcase your language skills.
I love that visualization is such a powerful tool.
Yeah,
We've talked about identifying pronunciation challenges, mastering those tricky sounds, and even calming those test day nerves. Now let's shift gears and explore some fun and effective ways to actually practice our pronunciation. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll dive into some creative and engaging techniques that'll make you feel like a pronunciation pro in no time. We're back and ready to roll up our sleeves. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the nitty-gritty of individual sounds to the bigger picture of rhythm and flow, but now comes the fun part, putting all this knowledge into action. So how can we actually practice our pronunciation in a way that's engaging and effective?
One of my favorite techniques is something you probably already do: sing along to your favorite English songs.
Wait, seriously, karaoke is a pronunciation workout? I'm intrigued.
Think about it. Songs are full of rhymes, rhythm, and repetition, all of which are fantastic for training your ear and your mouth. Plus, it's a fun and low-pressure way to practice. You don't have to worry about grammar or vocabulary. Just focus on mimicking the sounds you hear.
That's brilliant. I never thought of it that way. That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
What else can we do to level up our pronunciation game?
Another great option is to record yourself reading aloud.
Okay.
Choose a passage from a book, an article, even a random snippet of text, and read it aloud as if you were presenting it to an audience.
I've heard of this before, but how does simply recording myself actually help?
When you listen back to the recording, you become aware of those subtle pronunciation errors that you might not even notice when you're speaking. It's like having an instant replay for your speech. You can pinpoint specific sounds or words that you struggle with and focus on improving them.
I see. It's like having a pronunciation mirror. You can see yourself from a different perspective. So record, listen, and then rinse and repeat, right?
Exactly. And here's an extra tip. Try mimicking the pronunciation of a native speaker in your recording. Pay attention to their intonation, pacing, even their breathing. It's like doing a voiceover for your own pronunciation training video.
Now that's taking things to the next level. Okay, I'm ready for another challenge. What about those infamous tongue twisters? Are those actually helpful, Or are they just for making us sound silly?
They might sound silly, but tongue twisters are actually a fantastic tool for targeting specific sounds and muscle movements. They force you to really pay attention to the way your tongue, lips, and teeth are working together to produce those tricky sounds.
So it's like a pronunciation boot camp for your mouth.
Exactly. The more you practice those tongue twisters, the stronger and more agile your pronunciation muscles become, leading to smoother and more accurate speech. And honestly, they can be a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm adding tongue twisters to my pronunciation workout routine. What other creative techniques do you have up your sleeve?
Here's one that combines entertainment and education. Watch movies or TV shows in English with subtitles.
I've done that before, but I tend to get so focused on the subtitles that I forget to pay attention to the pronunciation. How can I make this a more active learning experience?
Think of it as a pronunciation scavenger hunt. As you watch, actively listen for specific sounds, words, or phrases that you want to practice. You can pause the video, rewind, and even try to imitate the actor's pronunciation.
That's a great idea. It turns watching movies into a pronunciation adventure. Okay. I'm feeling inspired. Any more unconventional pronunciation practices we can explore?
This one might surprise you. Practice your pronunciation in the shower.
Wait, what shower, Oki?
You got it. When you're in the shower, you're relaxed, you're alone, and there's no pressure to be perfect. You can experiment with different sounds and really let loose with your pronunciation. Plus, the acoustics of the shower can actually amplify your voice and make it easier to hear those subtle nuances.
I never thought of it that way. It's like having your own personal pronunciation echo chamber.
Exactly. And here's a bonus tip. Try recording yourself practicing in the shower, maybe not with your phone, and then listen back to it later. You might be surprised at what you hear.
This deep dive has been a total blast. I feel like I've unlocked a treasure chest of pronunciation tools. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are on this IELTS pronunciation journey?
Remember, pronunciation is a skill that develops over time with consistent practice. Don't be afraid to experiment with different techniques, make mistakes, and have fun. The more you enjoy the process, the more progress you'll make. And who knows, you might even discover some hidden talents along the way.
That's a great reminder. So to all our listeners out there, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep those English sounds flowing. And before we go, I want to leave you with a challenge. What's one English phrase or sentence that you're going to practice today to really nail it for your IELTS speaking test?
Share your pronunciation goals with us on social media. We'd love to hear about your progress.
That's it for this deep dive pronunciation. Superstars, keep those tongues wagging, and we'll catch you on the next episode.